Welcome to In the Know with Lolo Knows, the podcast where you'll discover all the insider secrets, music talk, and features, expert wisdom to help you stay on top of latest in DJ culture, beauty, fashion, and lifestyle. I am your host, Lolo, and I'm thrilled to kick off our new series of shows with a very special guest who also happens to be a powerhouse woman and, more importantly, my sister. In today's episode, we have the honor of welcoming Rosemary Garcia, a true trailblazer in the beauty industry. Rosemary's journey from New York to Puerto Rico to Pennsylvania and eventually to New York City has been marked by her unwavering passion for cooking, baking, and makeup. As sisters, we've witnessed firsthand her incredible drive and determination. Rosemary's career in the cosmetics industry reads like a success story, from her early days as a cosmetic beauty developer to her executive roles at renowned companies like Nordstrom, Interface Cosmetics, CMB Beauty Brands. She has left an indelible mark on the industry. But what truly sets Rosemary apart is her commitment to empowering Latina and women of color through her own beauty brand, Bonita Cosmetics by Rosemary Garcia. Her brand's presence was in Macy's department stores across the East Coast of the United States and international countries is a testament to her visionary leadership. In this episode, we'll dive deep into Rosemary's expertise and experiences, exploring the secrets behind her success and the challenges she overcome along the way. We'll also discuss her mission to celebrate diversity and inclusivity in the beauty industry, inspiring countless individuals to embrace their unique beauty. As we embark on this new series of shows, I couldn't think of a more fitting guest to kickstart our journey than my sister Rosemary Garcia. Her story is not only one of professional triumph, but also a testament to the power of passion, resilience, and sisterhood. So without further ado, let's welcome Rosemary Garcia to In the Know with Lolo Knows and delve into her extraordinary journey of beauty, empowerment, and sisterly support. Now get ready to be inspired. Stay in the know and be the first to know by signing up with your email at loloknows.com. Thank you. Enjoy this conversation. And please hit that subscribe and share this episode. I am so proud of you, Rosemary. I'm right now talking to Rosemary Garcia, and you're from right now currently living in Manhattan, New York, even though years you've been in Brooklyn.
Yes.
How many years have you been in Brooklyn, Rosemary?
I was only in Brooklyn from 2016 to 2022.
To
2022? Yeah, okay. And then, but I moved officially out of my home on September 2021 after the hurricane came.
Okay. And then I know, what have you been doing all these years? Because right now, I really want everybody to know that I am right now talking to a person who started a Latin-based cosmetics company, and it rose to fame in the early 2000s online. And then you gotten like these kiosks, and then you kind of moved from the kiosk into Macy's and Herald Square, where you were able to introduce and launch all of those shades of foundation to the Latin community, which was because a lot of people don't realize how our skin tone can go from fair all the way up to the darkest of dark because of our very cultured and background. And right. So you saw something that was missing and that was needed. And I want to know how you came up with Bonita Cosmetics, because I also believe that people like Jeffree Star and Rihanna right now and all of these major influencers that are doing makeup today need to learn about who Rosemary Garcia is and what she has already accomplished and what had happened, because I really want to hear that story here. First of all, Onita Cosmetics, your background before you got into the beauty business.
Okay, so before I got in the beauty business, I was in the beauty business. So basically, I was, my background is cosmetic management, sales. I worked for Nordstrom in the cosmetic business, managing the cosmetic department. From there I went to managing a cosmetic brand, which was called Interface Cosmetics,
Mm-hmm.
and I was an executive for them for many years. And then the cosmetic line got sold. So before that got sold, I already knew that where I wanted to be, because as being in the cosmetic business, one thing, and doing makeup artistry, and I realized it was a niche that was being missed. And of course, being a Latin woman, there was never a foundation to perfectly match my skin. And so, when I would go to a cosmetic counter and ask for foundation, they would look at me and give me the darkest shade. And I was like, 15 shades lighter than that. And I'm like, how are you putting everybody of color in that shade? So I knew that was an issue. So basically from there, I already knew the business side of the cosmetics, because that's what I was already doing. I already knew what it took to be a buyer, how to get to the buyers. I knew what it took to make that brand succeed in a major department store. So once I started formulating and putting things together, before my old brand that I was working for left, I pitched my line, and they already knew how hard I worked for somebody else. So their thing is, if you work this hard for somebody else, we know you'll work even harder for yourself. So I had a reputation. I knew who to call on in Federated, and met with the executives of not Macy's, but Federated. Federated owns Macy's. Mm-hmm. And I remember meeting Rita Magnum. She was the president of cosmetics over all of Federated, and she loved the line. I pitched it, and next thing I know, they gave me, because they knew that I knew the stores, they said, you pick your stores. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, I did not pick Herald Square, because I knew how much money Herald Square would take. So I picked 8 other stores to start off with in New York City, and it grew so fast that eventually I had the funding to be able to go into Herald Square and build a counter, because once you get into Herald Square,
right,
you have to build your own counter. So that's what I was able to do. And then I got into Florida, and also to Macy's Puerto Rico.
So I remember a cosmetic called Prescriptives, where mm-hmm. they would mix your foundations and do all that stuff. That was right. Like something before, but they never just had a full line or full shade until you came along. How many shades were total at that time for your foundation line?
We had 7 formulas and a total of 250 shades. What? So you didn't have
250 shades?
Yeah, it's in 7 formulas.
Wow.
So what that meant is, if somebody came in, it was a young lady, and she had great skin, she just wanted a compact, we would put her in a pressed powder. That came in 40 shades. Pressed powders came in so many shades. Mm-hmm. If you wanted a foundation, back then we had foundation sticks. If somebody was...
You had the foundation sticks back then?
Yes, I have the foundation sticks back then. And then if
Kim Kardashian and all them know about this.
And to this day, I still wear the same foundation stick. That's how long I've had it. I have it. In fact, I have it in my bathroom now. Then we went to cream to powder. Remember back then, cream to powder came out.
Yes.
And what became my #1 selling foundation was a shea butter foundation made for anybody that had any type of skin disorder. So if you had eczema, if you had psoriasis, if you were on Broadway and you wanted to go from one skin tone to another, we had coverage for that. So we did a big TV presentation, because a lot of the people that were back then doing cross-dressing, and they were doing all these Broadway shows, or they did a lot of where they had to shave, pretend they didn't have eyebrows, but they had eyebrows. The foundation was able to cover that. And so then we had something for foundation where somebody had, two-tone skin, or they suffered from alopecia or things like that. We had foundations to cover all that. And then we had the liquid foundation, we had the pencil foundation, we had a lot of different types of foundation. I can't even, all I know, we had 254 shades of foundation. And that included the powders. We also had loose powders, the rice powders, the banana powders. So all together with that, it was 254 shades of foundation.
Here's what I'm surprised about. Now that we're, in the age of internet and, this online market world. In 2000, that was pretty much like we were right at the beginning of like Amazon and like the internet back then. So how did you market to get the like 50,000 like people that you had initially signing up for your cosmetic line at that time?
So when I started launching Bonita, it was in 1995. Okay. This is when, remember that right before that, everything was, the internet was a big thing. And then they had the internet crash where people just, went out. A lot of people went out of internet business because remember, there was all this money that went into it and boom. And I remember when I did my first website in 1995, Google just came out. So Google was just new. I started the same time.
It's been that long, huh?
It's been that long, 1995.
Okay.
So a friend of mine, Chloe, and I, she was starting her own water business. And so we had pony and, we called them pony and dog shows. We just go around all around the United States doing shows in Latin territories. So that's how I would say, hey, if you're interested, here's my website. Sign up for the email. And that's how I was able to get so many names. And the reason I did that was a marketing technique to find out where my customers were coming from.
Right.
Where do they live? Everybody could say Latin lives in certain neighborhoods, but Latinos live everywhere. Right. And so that's how I did it. And so basically, once I got into Federated, I got into Macy's, I knew what stores I was going to be in. And before that, to back up, when I was doing the Macy's stores, we got into Macy's in 1998 or 99, 98, I think it was. Yeah, 98 or 99. It was before the 2000 era because I remember all of that, the YK 2000. But when I pitched it to them, what was very important for me is not just to go into stores where it had high Latin. That wasn't my concern. Right. My concern is people of color, because, you could be from India, you could be from Africa, which ended up becoming my biggest customers were Africans. And so then you had the Caribbean and South Americans, Mexico. So you had all that. So that's why it was important, the stores that I was located. So even though I did Queen Center Mall, the customer that was shopping at Queen Center Mall was not shopping in Herald Square. These are people that came in to visit people from South America, blah, blah, blah. So that was important. So marketing. So I was able to, back to the question, I was able to draw those 50,000, not just from those shows, but those shows, it was word of mouth. Yeah. People talking about it. We sampled. I gave away tons of samples. I used to do all the fraternity, and I used to go to Georgia and do the fraternity shows. We set up at the centers. I'd go to all these shows, spend a lot of money to set up a table, and I sold makeup that way. And that also helped me knowing what worked and what didn't work before I actually got into the department store. So when I got to the department, I had to make a decision if I was going to do Nordstrom or if I was going to do Federated, because then I realized I would be I get more customers out of Federated than I would Nordstrom in the beginning. Yeah. And so when I signed with them, I had to sign a clause saying that I would, because they knew it was going to do so well, I would not go to any competitor. I would not go to Sephora's because Sephora's wanted it. And I regret signing, but I did because they gave me the opportunity. I felt like I had to be loyal to them. And with Macy's. And then after 2 years, then I opened up more states and Herald Square came into birth. Yeah. Because Herald Square, that was huge.
That was a beautiful setup. That's you said, I understand that when I read about it, because you can still, there's a couple articles that people could Google about about you, with, Bonita Cosmetics by Rosemary Garcia.
Hmm.
And learn about and see the actual store. At that time, everything was very streamlined, very black and gold, and you didn't want that. You wanted to go more colorful. So you picked
Hmm.
bolder choice. You went with purple, and then you went with, some of the pinks and everything else. You really wanted to, explore that aspect. And you've always been a very colorful spirit. And I guess that's something that you felt connected to,
Right.
in your color palette and your choice. And it was something that nobody has ever seen. And I think that's why when you went to um, when it was sold, I think maybe do you think that that had any appeal to the buyer, you know, at that time? And I,
Well, yeah, I think so, Laura. I think also that was a time when Latin was ruling things, to be honest with you.
the
You
what?
know, Latin life was at the was at the forefront. We had the Mark Anthony's, the Jennifer Lopez, everything
Yeah.
was, Latin world, Mark Anthony, and what was his also name, from Puerto Rico. It was, it'll come to me, but basically
Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin. It was, thank you. And it was,
You had Gloria Estefan.
everything was very, very about Latinos. We were
Yes.
finally being recognized. And, when I created the brand, and especially Herald Square was going to be the epitome of my brand. So I wanted someone to walk in the store and say, wow, what is this? So it was pure white with a specific shade of purple and silver. Those were my colors. Why? Because Latins love
That
color.
purple was this
Yeah,
color.
that
Love
is yeah, that's the brush. Exactly. And so
it.
when I created that and created every color, I I wanted it to do it to recognize my culture, being Latina, and we love color. We're not about a black compact with, we're
Right,
not about
right.
this. We are a specific, we all about bright colors and being relating. And everything that I had, other than the brushes, were all named after Latina names, my family, my friend, things that were Latin country cities, so everybody could relate. And that was important to me. Color. We're colored. There's nothing black or white about Latinos. So we're all about life. We're all about, I look at my mother, and she was full of life, full of color, and she loved um she loved to stand out. So basically that's what I wanted the brand to do, was to stand out and say, oh, okay, what is this? And the slogan for Bonita was experience the Latina beauty, because you don't have to be Latin to wear my makeup. You just come and experience this, what this means. Bonita means pretty. Come and
Yeah.
experience this, And so that's what it was all about. Everything about the brand. I've always been an upcycle person. I hate things to be thrown away. I hate people to buy a compact and they open it up, they take the box, and all they did was throw it away. So one of my favorite toys as a little girl was a holographic. When you look through a tube and you see all the colors, that's what my packaging was all holographic, that you can reuse it. They were all,
Yes.
yes. And I remember the person that created nobody has done this. So then I went to a company that created the shipping tubes for the post office. And I says, hey, I have this idea. Can you make that long tube into something very small to fit a lipstick and a lip liner? No, Rosemary, we can't do that. I says, yes, you can. No, we can't do that. Yes, you can. Here's the compact. Here's a lipstick. Try it. And he sent it to me, and it was so exciting. He got it done. So then I found another person to do the holographic, and that's what we did.
Let
And
me tell
remember,
you something. Being in the electronic dance community after all these years, I mean, they would love that today.
yeah, yeah,
And beauty is a big part of our culture. You know what I mean?
right,
Because so many people use makeup to express themselves, both the
yeah,
male and the female dynamic, just for
right,
dramatization and just having some of those really bright, rainbow like colors, and even just like that hologram, which was so iconic at that time. Oh, they would
right,
love that. It's just like to put you at a time then where you really launched and it really became this big thing with
yeah,
Bonita. just being at that time versus where you're at now. You imagine if you would have launched all or did that now, like even just 10
Oh
years,
yeah.
it would have been like, whoo. I mean, Jeffree Star and all them would be asking you for your formulas. Where, how can I sign up? Or they would have been selling your cosmetics.
And that's the funny thing, or because all of that was done by hard work. I was nobody. I was just this girl that came in and knew a need and just worked hard for it. We didn't have the power of the internet. Like I said, when I came out, Google was just coming out. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it was all word of mouth. And my son and I were having a discussion last week, and he says, Mom, if you had the internet back then, you would own you would own an island. I started laughing. I said, yeah, right next to Puerto Rico. You know, we just create an island.
Hold on. But this is why I wanted to do the show. This is exactly why I wanted to do the show, because I believe everybody should know who you are. And if they're the makeup industry is huge. Obviously, I'm a huge consumer of it. First and foremost, you know, you always influenced me throughout my whole career and everything. I got my first makeup lessons from you just by watching in the mirror. I'll never forget the color blocking technique you used to do on your eyelashes. Jeffree Star and all them would have been all over that technique, you know?
Yeah. Makeup. I love to do.
You were doing that in high school. You were doing that in high school because at that time, the United Colors of Benetton was such a huge thing.
Yes.
Watches were the big thing, you know, and they were all about being bold and color and everything else. And everything right now that is being manufactured has already been done because we were such an influential group of people, especially Gen Xers, you know. That whole community right there was like pulled in because a lot of us were left to our own devices. So a lot of us delved into our creativity and imagination to survive.
No, it's so true. It's so true. We're living a different time. To be funny about this is that if you walked into a department store in 1995, 2000, 2005, everybody had the same thing with a different name on it. Okay, because they were all they were big names with private labels. I worked for one of the biggest Interface was owned by one of the biggest private label companies. And so I knew all their secrets, and I'm like, yeah, this person has this blue, but everybody has that, but it's just a different name. And so, you know, I since a little girl, I always loved makeup. I've always loved eyeshadow, and I've always loved lip gloss. That was just my thing. You know, we didn't have lip gloss then. We had chapstick, you know, and lipstick. That was it. But I always knew as I got older, having the need to wear foundation. I didn't have to wear foundation. I was young. I had very great skin. But once, you know, I got into being a young woman, skin changes. And then I'm like, there's nothing to find. The person who had the closest foundation to my skin was Lancome, you know, and it wasn't even the perfect match, but they had the best, you know, Lancome. If anybody asks, who's your favorite brand, it's always been Lancome. And so, because they do a lot of science, you know, I'm all about the science. They're all about the science with their skincare and treatment. So nobody else could do that, but still it was not the right shade. And I'm like, oh, when I finally figured it out, it was. And then Prescriptives was a great line. And, but they went out of business eventually. So it just tells you that there was a need. People after, one thing I realized is that you have to watch what you wish for, because you want something, you wish it, you get it. You know, I remember I was still working a full-time job when I got my first EDI fax number. I already had my warehouse in the Bronx. I was selling it regardless. When I went to Macy's, I said, you could tell me no. It's not going to stop me from opening. I was planning on already opening up a store in the Bronx. I already had the warehouse. I already had the storefront. You know, I was paying rent for this place. I was working. And when they told me, yes, we'll let you know. Next thing I know, I'm getting this, you know, a 45-page order from Macy's. And I was like, oh my God. So that happened at 2:00.
You'll never forget that.
5:00, I called the company I was working for. I said, I quit. I called them. I knew. The funny thing is that they didn't answer the phone after 4 because they were Jewish. And so
Okay.
that owned a new company. And so I said, well, I'm going to call at 5 o'clock. I call and says, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm not giving a notice. I just quit. I disconnected all my phones because back then everything was a landlines. I disconnected. I called Verizon and said, disconnect everything, because I was like, I have to do this. And it was empowering in getting that order. But, it wasn't easy because I was a one-man show. And I lived at the time in Queens, but I specifically opened up my warehouse and storefront in the Bronx because that's where the high Latino concentration was. So I used to travel all the way from Flushing all the way to the Bronx every day and, sell it. Because I was selling on the website myself. I was selling it from all these little shows I was doing. So I was making decent money. It just came once Macy's. That was a whole different ball game, and I had to do it by myself. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have all that stuff, and how people started knowing me was it got into magazines and it got into the press. So that was what helped me also.
Yeah. So so let's talk about, so how does it feel being a pioneer? For what you did at the time when you did it, because I kind of feel like I kind of want to continue to go back to that. When the reason why I wanted to do this show was I heard, people like Jeffree Star, and Rihanna, taking credit for, introducing all these massive shades into their whole line. And I'm like, well, you guys don't know Rosemary Garcia, honey. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this needs to be told. And just she so happens to be my sister. On top of that, and I'm like, I'm on the phone calling you. I'm like, girl, it's time to tell your story. I don't even know why you front. Like you just.
You know what? It's just I guess age. You're like, okay, been there, done that. It's just that makeup is one of the most difficult and competitive businesses you can get. A lot of people. Give an example. Once I got out of it, many people tried to replicate another Latin brand, and they've come in and gone right out of business. I was in Federated in Macy's and in my own business for a very long time. Yeah. Normally people get into a major department store, they're in and out in less than 2 years. I have seen people come in and in 6 months they're thrown out. You don't make the money, they're out. When I got into Herald Square, it was, when they called me and says, we need you in Herald Square. And I'm like, that's a little scary, but they did so much to help me because they knew it was going to cost. The counter alone was almost $300,000 to build. I'm like, Macy's like, we'll take care of it, because that's how much they believed in the brand. And we worked on it. They got the union involved, and we found somebody in Canada that built it in Canada. Shipped it to the United States. We had my architect was an amazing guy. He's an Asian guy in Soho that did amazing work. A lot of work. But I say all that to say is that I didn't come from being famous or well known. It was I loved makeup, and I loved my culture. I loved my race, and it was time that people gave us the credit that we were due. We are different. We can't just go there. Now, when I started the brand, we didn't start with that many shades of foundation. It just grew to that because 65% of my business was foundation sales. That's huge.
That is
65%. People were getting mad if they came to the counter and we were out. So you understand when you're dealing with
look at these. These
you guys got
time, honey. These brushes.
Let me tell you, Laura.
My longest, and I still use these brushes. Look,
Laura, I don't even have my own brushes. Everybody has my brushes, but me. I'm like, I don't even know what happened to my own personal set. That is so funny. Even my mother, I just laugh because that was the first thing I created was the brushes.
Girl,
the brushes took me 2 years to produce.
How long have I had these brushes? Go ahead and tell everybody how long I've had them.
Well, you got the gray ones they were produced in 1998. That was the very first. That one, you see the color change, the barrel change. So the foundation brush, the big brush, those came out in 2000.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Now, The first set of foundations, the first set of brushes took me almost 2 years. I was a brush fanatic. So at the time I was using MAC, of course. I had MAC brushes. And then Laura Mercier, Trish McAvoy. I love Trish McAvoy stuff. So I used to go to Saks and buy her brush. So I had all the brushes. I said, okay, now what I'm doing is I'm heading to a paint store. So I went to a paint store in that would be considered it was Chinatown, but it's a different name for it now, but they had a big art store there. And I went to the art department and got bought one of every brush. And I needed to know if a perfect painter can use a specific brush, then a cosmetic artist that's really, really good will do the same exact thing. So I compared everybody's to these brushes, and then that's how I formulated my brushes. Because I think I started my brushes off with 12 pieces. And they were made right here in New York City. They were not made in China. They were not made overseas. My set of brushes were made right in New York City.
And who can say that? Who can say that today? Because
they were made right. That's why
all the brushes being manufactured today. Do you know?
A lot of them overseas, of course. Everything comes from China,
Right.
So, and hey, that's okay because that's where the work went, Okay. So the first set of brushes I said were made right here in Queens, and they were amazing. And I find that was the first thing I came with the line. After that, I started formulating the foundations, and then the eyeshadows and all that all came through. My concern was this, Laura. I don't care about lipstick.
Right.
I don't care about lip gloss. I don't care about eyeliner, all that. I wanted good brushes, good foundation, and good skincare. I sold a lot of skincare.
See, right there it is. You knew what you wanted to kind of focus on, but you added all these other things as an added,
Exactly.
benefit, because you can do those too easily.
Because,
you did it well.
Yeah.
You did it well.
Exactly. Because one thing I realized about the Latin community, I have to be very honest about it, was Latin women love skin.
Yes.
Okay. We're very into our skincare.
Look.
Yes. And my mother taught me that. My mother had beautiful skin, and she always taught me, always take care of your skin. That's all you can have. If you don't have, you may not be able to walk straight, but you'll have a good face, And so that was very important. So when I trained, all of my people that work for me were very heavily trained. Mm-hmm. They would come to the Bronx. They would do very heavy schooling on skincare. Because I said to them, if you get a customer and train them how to take care of their skin, that foundation is going to look great. Because if you put foundation on bad skin, it's not going to look good. It's just temporary. And so that's why my foundation sales were so high, and also my skincare sales. Lipstick, nobody's loyal to a lipstick. Nobody's loyal to an eyeshadow, because who uses a full thing? Skincare and foundation. And then that's the good brushes is what's going to make everything go in fine. And that's what it is.
I will have to say this. Lip glosses, though, are my jam.
Oh, no, please.
They are not creative equal, honey. And it's and I am very committed to a couple that I found, that,
oh yeah, me too. Now that's
what I wanted to do.
Right.
Where a lot of the lip glosses fail, I think they fail at looking good inside the packaging, but it doesn't translate onto the lip very well.
Exactly. And you had asked a question like before, I'm not familiar. I know who Jeffree Star is. I know he's done an amazing.
Yeah, I want to ask you about how you feel about some of the influencers today, these makeup. You have Jeffree Star. You've even had people like Kylie Cosmetics come out, and some of these other big name brand celebrities that come out. Rihanna, because a lot of people rave about her brand, and now Selena Gomez she entered into the whole makeup world, and her is getting a lot of big reviews now.
My thing, Laura, is that, okay, to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about Jeffree Star. Okay, I don't. I know who he is. I know he does. He's an amazing marketing person, because I've sat down, watched him on YouTube. I've never physically seen his products, touched his products, so I can't give an honest answer.
Right.
What I do know about him and what I like about him is that he looks great. His makeup is impeccable, and he can make somebody look from this to that, and it amazes me. And that's talent. That's real talent.
Yes, he is.
And he's gorgeous, and so I give him that credit. But I cannot tell you anything about his formulas because I've never touched anything. As for Rihanna, she has great formulas. She has beautiful colors, and I'm a big Rihanna fan. So I have I have a lot of respect for her than I would for a Kylie Jenner. Okay, because I know that whatever Rihanna puts her name into, whatever she does, from a lipstick to a foundation to a bra, it's going to look. It's actually meeting a person's needs. And I've been to a Sephora's and played with her things and tried her things, and and I've bought. I don't buy makeup because I'm so but I have bought her a couple of her things, and I love them. So I cannot say anything negative about her. If anybody would say, well, if I'm going to give you $100, whose makeup are you going to buy? It definitely would be Rihanna's. Now, as for Kylie Jenner, that's not. I think the customer that's buying Kylie Jenner is not. It's not the most sophisticated customer. It's the younger person, which is great. She has a powerful name. Why are you taking that off? You can't take that away from her.
Right.
But I've never used any of her products. I've played with her lip glosses, and but I haven't done anything else from there. But if I were anybody else's brands that I know, I'm a big Bobbi Brown fan. The original Bobbi Brown, when Bobbi Brown was doing it, not when Bobbi Brown sold.
So let's talk about that real quick, because I want to get into some history questions real quick about cosmetics. So you have a lot about. Okay, let's talk talk about Bonita Cosmetics. It grew obviously probably bigger than you anticipated, but really quickly, where you felt like a one-woman show and you couldn't do it any longer.
No.
So you felt like you had to sell at that point. How was that for you? How was it, giving up something that you worked so hard for? How did you even get past that? And where are you at today?
Well, what happened was, it was simple. Bonita grew quicker than I could handle physically, financially. Of course, it wasn't a one-woman show once it got to a certain level. I had a lot of employees, a lot. I had a whole factory in the Bronx, distribution. You have to understand, counters that are selling $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 of makeup a week. Herald Square was a big counter. We were doing $20-some thousand a month in foundation, in makeup sales. So it wasn't about the selling of the product. The product was great. The sales were great, but I needed more funding, because this is how it happens. I was personally funded. I had no bank. I had no bank loans, no grants, none of that. It was, I had to liquidate everything I own to make this happen.
Right.
Got a little private loans here and there. Got public funding, meaning that people buy invoices and they pay it out, because when you're dealing with department stores, they don't pay right away. Okay. Sometimes they don't pay for 2 and 3 months, and you're like, how am I going to feed my kids? That's got to the point. People don't realize that, because when you are privately funded, you're depending on that money. When you're an Estee Lauder that buys all these brands, they're worth billions, so you don't have those issues. So when you're dealing with a brand that's privately owned, you have to, it's a lot. A lot of people come in and go out. I lasted a very long time on that way, but it got to the point where I could no longer do it. I just said, the stores were selling so much makeup. I now have to buy the ingredients. I got to pay my private manufacturers that were producing, my makeup and things like that. So I didn't know what to do. I was under a lot of duress, a lot of pressure, because I'm like, oh my goodness, how I can't do this. I have to pay makeup artists. I got to pay all these people.
Not even just that. You were even a single mom at that time too.
Oh yeah, single mom living in New York City. It's not, it's a lot, And at that time, my mother was living with me, and so she was a great support to help me, with the children. It was a lot, but
Yeah.
and I was an owner that people didn't realize I was an owner because I
Yeah.
was in every one of my stores every single day working those counters like I worked like I clocked in.
Yeah.
People never realized that the Rosemary Garcia that was on the wall was actually me. People didn't believe that, you know? And so because I was always there, they just thought I was this little, makeup artist coming in and out, but it was me. So it got to the point where I needed help. So what happened was, one of my manufacturers that was making my makeup said, I was telling her about my situation. She says, "Oh, I could help you." And I'm like, "Well, how can you help me?" She says, "Well, I know people that could help you fund it and then to help you keep growing it." Because at this point, Sephora's wanted to, had contacted me. There were stores in Florida that were there. They were also federated that wanted to bring. It got too big. I couldn't go into any stores anymore because there was just no more money.
Yeah.
So what happened was I went to I met with the manufacturer. We came up with the deal and I says, I want to make sure that I'm not signing a bad deal. They put a lot of pressure for me to close it. The mistake that I made was my attorney that looked at my form. He now went in. He was Jewish, great guy, but he was it was their holiday, so they could not pick up their phones. It was a religious holiday, no work, no nothing. So I had to sign, and I thought I was under duress, delirious, and I read the contract thinking it was one way, but it wasn't. And basically, I just, gave away my company and didn't realize. Like, they tricked me. They played with the game, and they stole the company right from underneath me. And so what happened was we had to now go to Federated Macy's. We went to Macy's, and I'll never forget that meeting. And it was myself at the time, my executive assistant, and my account executive for New York, Richard. We go to meet with Macy's and the new owner. So the new owner, she says, "Do you really think you should be in Macy's? Because Latin people most of them are poor. Don't you think you should take this to like a lower store?" I and Richard were so mortified. I said, "What did I do?" All I kept saying is, "What did I do?"
Wow.
Richard was so upset. I was upset. Richard's Puerto Rican, very sophisticated young guy. He came from Louis Vuitton, He was very intelligent. He's the one that ran all my New York stores and Puerto Rico, along with Soule, if you remember Soule.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mortified. So now I said, okay, whatever. What can I say? We need meet in front of Macy's. They're telling Macy's we went. Now they're trying to tell Macy's how it's going to be. So then Macy's said, they called me and says, "We need to meet with you privately." So we met with them, and they're like, "How do you feel?" And I just saw the writing. Things started changing. They sent my line to China to be created. Then they started changing the packaging and started doing this because my packaging was not a sterling silver. It was a silver. Everything was silver.
Right.
And it was very good quality that wouldn't rust and wouldn't peel and everything. That they wanted to go to a purple packaging, which I was fine for. It was a beautiful purple packaging. Everything was changing from so fastly. They just basically was changing it. 6 months into the line, it's just shipping became an issue, this and that, and I just knew something is wrong here. And these are people that wanted to get into Macy's badly on their own and could not get in. So I was their opportunity to be able to get in there. And I remember Women's Wear Daily wrote an article about the new owners of
Right
Bonita.
there.
Which article is that one from? Women's Daily?
New owners for Bonita, New York. Roberta Bird,
Yeah.
executive officer of Lady Bird Exclusive Cosmetics, has entered into a partnership with Howard Schwartz, a financial backer, to purchase 51% of Bronx-based Bonita Cosmetics. A new corporation has been formed by the private label cosmetics maker called Innovative Belleza de Bonita LLC, which is Spanish for innovative. I couldn't pronounce that. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Innovative
Mm-hmm.
Beauty by Bonita. Details of the deal, which took place in mid-April, have not been disclosed. And then
Yeah.
it said Rosemary Garcia, founder of Bonita, will continue to expand her line of Hispanic focus cosmetics beyond its distribution in 12 Macy's stores. And Bird explained that her Long Island based company, which industry sources said generates more than 25 million annual sales, will be able to keep 3-year-old Bonita more competitive by producing new launches faster and more efficiently than before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this was
So,
in Women's Wear Daily.
yes. And I remember at the Javits Center, they were having the annual beauty show,
Mhm.
and I was supposed to be a speaker there, but this duress had gotten me so sick that I couldn't make it. And I think I didn't really want to make it. And I got very sick. And I just knew at that point where I knew I made a mistake, but there was nothing I could do. I didn't know what to do because I saw they wanted to change the name of the brand. How do you change the name of the brand when I am the brand?
Mhm.
So that was the biggest thing. I tell people all the time, just as like in the music industry, you're a great singer, people promise you things, you sign bad deals. And next thing you know, you get 1 penny from the album and everybody else gets all the money. It's the same thing. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm a very intelligent person, but I'm not a lawyer. And I
Right.
made a very, very bad mistake. But the good thing was, Federated believed in me so much, Macy's believed in me so much that whatever I decided to do is what they wanted to do. And I went in there and I said, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore because I can't change who I am for somebody else. The
Right.
brand is a brand specifically targeting Latina women and all women of color. My customers come from Puerto Rico, Mexico, South America, Africa, India, all these countries. Women are my customer. That's not what they wanted. They wanted to be a Long Island woman. We're not a Long Island woman. We are a worldwide woman. And that was where the heads buckled. The racism was already there. I can't not deal business with anybody that's a racist. That was just very painful. So I said, I am the brand. The brand has my name on it. So
So you were able to keep your name a
of
little
course,
bit? You were
yeah,
able to keep your name.
so what happened was,
That's
I was
important.
I was able the how the attorneys worked it out was, um I still own the rights. Because they changed the name of the company, they didn't realize that they also made a mistake. So I had to bankrupt. I had to bankrupt the company, bankrupt the name, and be able to keep my name. But the catch was I could not start another brand for 2 years. And I would have to be 25 miles out of New York City to do it. But at that point, I had lost everything. I felt like I gave my child that I birthed to a total stranger that was getting ready to abuse my child. Do you understand? And that's how it was. I left Macy's in tears, horrible. But, when the last words they said to me, the cosmetic buyer and the Gail, she was she was the head person in charge there. My buyer, Megan, was there, and also the financial person. She says to me, Guerlain Cosmetics is bankrupt, been gone, come back. All these big brands, YSL, all these big brands, they come back, you can do this too. And I knew that. I knew that I could do it again, but I never did it because it was so exhausting. So I lost everything. Financially, I lost I was so depressed over it because, you work so hard. I didn't have it wasn't the internet didn't make me famous. It wasn't the Instagrams and the social, none of that was in existence. So it was my hard work, and someone just took advantage and just stole it from me. So I've started reformulating, and I had the idea, okay, I'm going to redo this. I knew that I had the reputation and the sense to be able to redo it again and call back Macy's, because Macy's, I could have gotten back into Macy's. I was not never an issue. I knew I could have went to and did, you know, my pony and dog show again if I had to. That would have been no big deal. I've had customers reach out to me. You know, I then started my other business, you know, teaching, you know, all my craft classes. This is 15 to 18 years later. I'm in Brooklyn teaching a soap making class.
Yeah.
And
Dude, soap
this
making
girl's
is
looking
huge.
at me. This girl's looking at me like she knows me, but she doesn't know me. You understand? So I said, okay, while this stuff is settling, if everybody wants to take a little break, go to the restroom, I'm going to go to the restroom. And then she comes back, and I was selling my soaps, my Bonita soaps, and I still had some stuff that I still had at my store in Brooklyn. And she came back to me. She says, I know how I know you. And I said, what is that? And her name is Sandy D. And she is Puerto Rican from Long Island. And she says to me, you did my makeup in Herald Square. And she pulls out this lip gloss. It was called Lip Lacquered.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I've had this for over 10 years. And I sparingly. She says, I was so distraught when you went out of business because where am I going to get my foundation, my lip gloss? She had this lip lacquered. And we end up becoming very good friends. She was a student for a long time. And we always discuss, she's, oh, you need to come back out. And just people, you know. And I knew I created quality things. I knew I created something that if you came to me from Africa, you know, I could meet your needs. If you came to me from Asia, if you came to me from anywhere, I can meet your needs because I was known for quality skincare and foundation and powder. And so everything else was just an added bonus. And those brushes, I mean, we sold a lot of brushes and the quality of those brushes. The funny thing is when I made the brushes, I said to the guy, women are lazy to wash brushes. We'll keep reusing them. I want them that when they're washed, they don't rot because a lot of brushes, when you wash them, the handle falls off, they rot. We tested it. I said, I want you to handle my brushes like they are hipster artists. You know, they're hippies and they don't, you know, they're just whatever. That's how it was. And so that's why the brushes were such a good quality. And today, whoever, like you still have yours, I don't have any, but you have them. You know, that's
my go-to brushes every day.
Yeah. So, but you know, where I go from here, I don't know. I've tried to think, I want to do this, but it gets to the point where I don't want to compete against, I don't want to compete against people anymore. I think, you have your Rihanna's. Rihanna has much more money than I have. She has the power. She has a following. I'm just, I'm almost 60 years old. But my thing has always been, I said, if I redid this again with Bonita, it would definitely be with skincare. It would be with my soaps that are healing and all plant-based. Everything I do is plant-based now. Yeah. So I would say I would do the whole line plant-based, completely plant-based.
Well, as an esthetician since 2009, I mean, I can verify you have great brushes. Obviously, part of my license is doing makeup as well. Hi, how are you? I studied ingredients and did all that stuff. You don't need those things apparently when you launch a makeup line. You just need money and power and influence and that kind of thing.
Laura.
And honestly, I get it, but for some people like me and you who've actually put in time and we educated ourselves and we went to school for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Funny, Laura.
You know what I mean? It's just like, and it actually, it's for me, even being in the skincare game, I pride myself on my, my own skincare line that I launched like 3 years ago. And it's just like, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful line. I have specific products that I'm pushing out to my customer base. But like, it does kind of feel a little bit like, wow, we put in all of that time, all of that effort and energy and stuff. And now you have to now be just a name,
That's it. That's it. Laura, one thing I realized is that I know I pioneered this cosmetic brand. Was I the first one to come up with the idea? No. But I was the first one to get in a major department store and do it with elegance and very successful at it at the time. I did that. And I wasn't owned by anybody. Okay. When you go in a department store, there's only 3 big names, and most of those names own 4 or 5 brands. I was privately owned. I was working, my daughter had severe eczema. So I've been dealing with shea butter since she's been 5 years old. I had shea butter in my foundations and things. Nobody was doing foundation nobody was doing anything with shea butter. Nobody. I was selling my body butters, my lip balms, and that #1 foundation with shea butter in it. Back then, people didn't realize what that was. I remember Leonard Lauder once was passing the counter and saw that. He looked and he's like, shea butter, whatever. And it just kept it moving, and I'm like saying to myself, yeah, just keep it moving, because they didn't understand. But guess what? Everybody's now putting shea butter, and everything. I did that, been there, done that. But it's because I tell people, if you believe in something, do it. I was always the type of person that I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Regardless if you like it or not. And I'll say this real quick, Laura, because before I left my company to start Bonita, it got sold. And one of the directors and I were going to, Brooklyn. Yeah, we were going to Brooklyn at King's Plaza to see the interface counter. And we were on the train. And his name was Mike, tall, white guy, very nice guy. I was introducing him to all the stores, and he says, I said, I have this idea. What is it, Rosemary? I said, I want to eventually come out with my own brand. He says, really? What would you call it? I said, I would call it Bonita by Rosemary Garcia. My name has to be on it so people know Bonita means pretty in Spanish, and Garcia is a Latin woman. And he says, really? He says, and where would you sell it? I said, in Macy's. He says, oh, Rosemary, that's such a nice idea, but it'll never happen. It'll never happen. You know how I know you do well, your stores, you have the #1 stores in our company, but Rose. I said, okay. Fast forward several years, he's retired. He walks into the new beauty gallery in Herald Square.
Yeah.
And of course, Bonita, not Mac, but Bonita was in the window of Herald Square.
Yep.
And they walked into the store, and he walks in the door into the beauty gallery, and he stands there, and he sees Adriana Chavez. She was my counter manager at Herald Square. He says, hi, Adriana, because he knew her from Interface, because I went back and got some of my good employees from my old company. And he says to her, did somebody steal Rosemary's idea? And he said, Adriana says, Mike, that is Rosemary's brand. He says, I cannot believe this. Do you know that we were sitting on the train and she told me this and I told her it would never happen? So he said, here's my card. Make sure you tell her to call me immediately. And I called him, and all we could do was laugh on the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, see, if I would have been listening to you, it would never happen. But I was going to do it regardless. Even if Macy said to me, great idea, but no. Even when I went to the banks, I need money. Great idea.
Well, congratulations for proving him wrong.
Yeah.
Your dreams were worth following at that time.
Yeah.
And you should be very proud of what you accomplished and even began, So that was the whole purpose of this conversation today, because I really want you to get your flowers in that regard, because I know you had to face some very difficult decisions and where it's at, but it doesn't take away your story, because your story does matter. And this is what this is about.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
There's some great people out there. And, my piece of advice to people that want to get in this business, because I teach now, I teach people how to make soap, how to do this, how to start their own business. I teach people how to do all that now. And I get such a gratifying feeling seeing I've started people learning how to make soap and candles, and I've gone to their store in London, helped them set up. I've had gratifying, I have a school in Africa, and I've seen people come from poverty, helping them opening up their little canteens of sewing dresses. That's what's gratifying to me. Not going and stealing somebody's idea and getting credit for something they never did. That's not who I am, but they have to live with that. Right. as quick as they took it from me, as quick as they lost it.
Exactly.
That's how I did. You know?
Yes. That's a really good point you made, really, especially that takeaway moment and that lesson that you kind of see. And now where it's led you, you're a teacher now, and you've been a teacher for years. You've always been a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love it. I really love it. I'm getting ready to leave next month. Well, June 5th, I'm going to Africa. I'm traveling all Africa. I'm going to 5 countries, and just to teach. And it's gratifying for me, and it makes me feel so good when I'm there, because I see people that have a need. And if I could teach you a hand skill for you to be able to feed your family and have a good business, what
part of Africa?
Well, my first stop is Kenya. I'll be in Nairobi.
Really?
Yeah. So I was in Nairobi 2 years ago, so I'm going back to Nairobi. That's my first stop. From Nairobi, I will now travel to Egypt for 4 days. From Egypt, I will now travel to my favorite place, Lagos, Nigeria. And that's where my main school is. I've had it there for over 10 years. So I will be there for 8 weeks. And then from there, I'm just going to hop over to Ghana, because Ghana is like saying I'm going from New York to Cleveland, an hour flight, a 45-minute flight. And so I'm going to Ghana to teach soap making, and then back to Nigeria. And then on my way back, I'm going to go to one of my favorite places and to teach soap making in Morocco.
Sounds like you ended up with the better deal at the end.
You know what? Yeah, because I have peace of mind. Let me tell you, you can have all the money in the world and not be happy. You
better say it, girl.
Yeah, I have a very gratifying life. I don't have all that kind of money, no. But what I have, nobody could steal from me. And that's my inner passion, my skill. You could steal my company, you could steal my money, but you can't steal my heart, because that belongs to me. And so, being a child of God, and, believing in my spirit and believing in what my God has taught me, keeps me going, because he's the one that gives me peace and happiness, not man. So that's how it is. I always believe that when you take something from somebody intentionally and you have a plan to take advantage of somebody, it'll come back to you in one form or the other. I truly believe in that.
Absolutely.
You can't steal something that you love. It could be a company, or it could be
all energy. It's like a boomerang. I always teach the boomerang effect. It's all energy. So it just is,
Yeah. So I always say to anybody that wants to start something, start it. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till you have the right money, because you'll never have enough money. Just do it. Amen. What sells is passion, not money. So, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to be honest. Right before we jumped on this call, I had all these like little butterflies, because, it was just like, I just wanted it to just be right. And then before I came to this show, I was like, just give me the words and everything else, because it was just like, because it's like, I can do everything like in person, like we're doing, but when you have technology involved, and everything can happen, just to kind of throw the whole energy.
Right.
So, and it's just like, and being in this for so long, I know that for a fact.
That's it.
Especially being a DJ, it's like anything can happen at any given moment. You just have to just kind of go with it and just keep doing it, and just keep
creative flow.
Create that flow.
That's it. That's it. So it doesn't matter if you are creative in cooking, if you're a DJ, that's all art. It's art. It's all art. And, I taught a young lady, she's an executive for this big company in Manhattan. She came in the other day. She came in for a pasta making class a year ago. And she says to me, I want to come in and do a lip balm and lip gloss class. I said, okay. So she came in, and then she was telling me that, she's Latina. She's from Colombia. Beautiful girl, but she was having problems with her skin and her lips. She was, breaking out a lot. So that's why she wanted to learn. So she said, she had read about my story. And so she asked me if I would teach her. I said, sure. So she came in, we did all that. And she was like, oh, I would love to one day do this. I said, but why can't you? oh, you're making excuses for yourself. So I said, okay, let's come up with the brand. What do you want your brand to be called? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I said, no, you know, give me a name. And I said, don't choose Bonita. That's already been taken. And we started laughing. And so, she started laughing and she says, okay. And then she said, how about Cielo? I said, okay, Cielo Belleza. So I have like this printer, the labels to make labels for printer. So then while she was filling the lip gloss tube, I was making her labels and I printed them out. I said, here you go. Here's your labels to put on all your lip glosses and your lip balms and pass them out to your family. She was like so excited, something simple like that. But see, that's what brings me joy. I tell people you can come in here and learn a craft.
Yes.
Or I could help you with your craft, and I've taught when I closed the main hub of the Brooklyn Creative Studio. I was there since 2008. I taught over 14,000 students. That's a lot of people, 14,000 students. And I was like Martin Lawrence, when he went on his last show, he signed the wall. Remember, he signed the wall on his last show. So I signed the name and I put on there 14,133 students. That's how many people I taught there. That's gratifying. That's more to me than losing a company, this and that. We can lose things every day. The most richest people lose things every day, But this was something that I birthed. And it doesn't matter. And I always said to my kids, I still own those rights now. I have all the rights to those things again.
Yes.
I won all that back. I have all that. I just haven't done it again because it's competitive out there. And I'm 60 years old. What do I'm not sitting, So I leave
You're
that.
like, I'm doing all my classes. I'm doing all this stuff.
You're
probably still, you know what? Honestly, for something like that huge to have happened to you, that's traumatic. You know what I mean?
I remember I left New York.
So
I went
much out of you.
Yeah, and my kids were younger. They didn't understand. They felt like, how can this have happened? Blah, blah, blah. They didn't understand. Now, as they're adults, they're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, And I said to myself, it's still on a plane, like a plane that's just, riding along. Mm-hmm. I said, how many people have come out with things and then all of a sudden they revive it 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years later. I still own the rights to that. There will never be.
No, you didn't sell your name.
No, I didn't sell my name. I always add the rights because one thing I told them, you buy Bonita Cosmetics. They didn't buy Bonita by Rosemary Garcia.
Amen, sister.
So.
Good job. I guess you did come out all ahead, even though now it's just like it may feel like a delay, but everything
happens for the right time. The reasons it is what it is. I was able to do something that I always said I was going to do, so when I look at people like Rihanna, it makes me happy because she's a woman of color, and she's putting back to the woman of color and giving them what they need. And that brings me joy,
with her, but she started even with her brand, even with the Fenty line, with the
that's what I'm saying, the bras and all that.
Yeah, making it beautiful. All inclusive for women of all sizes and all shapes, and it was just like
you gotta love her. You gotta love her.
Even with her runway shows, now you're seeing models of all shapes and sizes nowadays, and it's not just limited to someone who's 5'8" and over anymore.
No, and you know what? She's a real person. She keeps it, as the kids in New York say, that she keeps it 100. And you have to give it to her. When I did this, I didn't have the power that people have today. I couldn't get mad. I couldn't get mad and then get on Facebook or on Instagram and blow people out. I couldn't do that, Then do I get vindictive and call the New York Times to do? No, it got to the point, enough is enough. It's like, I don't want to shame my child. It is what it is. I lost my child and I got to move forward. But, I tell people all the time, don't allow it taught me to be a firmer mother to my children. Whatever you want to do, you do. Just put your whole into it and do not let anybody steal anything from you. Simple.
Amen. Well, there it is. I'm really proud of you because you managed to do something. You should be proud of yourself. I'm glad that we were able to get this story out for everybody. I just want everybody to know where they can find you now.
Where they could find me. You can find me at createwithrosemary.com. Simple. And
Createwithrosemary.com.
that's
I
it.
love it. And
So,
everybody can get, you have all your socials on your website and everything else.
yes, everything's on there. I'm on Instagram is Rosemary's Creative Studio, because that's been the name of the studio, so, since 2008. And that's it. All my classes are on there, from wanting to come in and do a party, or if you want to come and start a business, if you just want to learn how to make soap, whatever. It's the whole story's on there. It shows all my schools, my travels. Everything is on there.
Okay, well, so for Jeffree Star and Selena Gomez and everybody else I'm about to tag up in this video.
That's it. I wish,
You better watch this video.
I love about
and if you ain't watching to get your history, shame on you. And I'm going to call you out if you don't. Period.
You know what? I love it. I love this because, I come from working. I've been behind the counter to running a cosmetic department to doing what I did. And when I see people like Jeffree Star, when I see people like Rihanna, they're using their platform to give back, but they're also using their platform for something that they know that is needed. And when you go into a department store, you have 15 brands, white brands. Okay? Why can't there be that many in Latinos? Okay? I think there's more Latin people in America than there are people.
It's getting there. Look at the Latin music. Look at how Latin music. You got Bad Bunny, who's like the #1 artist across the whole globe right now.
That's it. But you know what?
That's a telltale sign right there. How big
Exactly.
we actually are and how huge our influence is. You've got people who are English speaking only and are listening to his music and don't even know what he's saying.
Yeah. So the point of it is, Laura, it's possible. Somebody asked me yesterday, well, would you start the brand again? I said, that takes a lot of money. That takes a lot of time. My thing is, I've been pushing plant. My new thing is, my new brand that I have been working with now for a couple of years, called Plants for Skincare. And it's Plants, the #4 skincare. And that's where I use the soaps, because anybody can use soaps. There's no barrier of color. We all have skin. As long as you have skin, you can use skincare and soap. And so that's what I love to do. And I wish anybody, I'm happy. I didn't know about the Gomez, Selena. She's gorgeous. She has a following. Use the following. Use, what you do to beautify yourself and spread it. There's more rooms than 1 or 2 people.
Right. And obviously that's another good take.
You deserve that power.
Right.
They deserve it.
Right. Exactly. I think once you build a following in a community and something that people want, they will buy it. The only thing that, like I said, that does, when that kind of sucks with certain things that come out. Like I just purchased a perfume and I really like it a lot, but now that perfume has been discontinued. It's just like when you get onto something and then they remove it. Why did you do that? I don't get that.
Yeah. You know what? The reason, I've done that. Basically, they go on sales and the cost of reproducing that, it's not meeting the exact numbers and needs. My favorite perfume, other than my own, is Alfred Sang. Okay? That was made in the 80s. It's my favorite. They discontinued it, but the only place I can find it is at TJ Maxx or Marshall's. So when I see it, I buy it, like 3 or 4 of them, and they're like the best perfume. I've been using that forever. It's my favorite.
Okay, so basically you're telling me that places like TJ Maxx and
they get all the discontinues.
That's why you can never find it again.
That's it. So what you do is, if it's something, you would be surprised. I get it when I want something. I just go, and I know I can't get it at Marshall. At the department stores. I can't. Those prices for perfumes in the department store are out of rate. Are out.
Don't even get me started on that.
And they're not even that strong. And I'm just like, my daughter bought me the new YSL, and it smells so amazing. And I could smell the saffron in it. And I could smell it was over $100 some. And I'm like, perfume is so crazy.
It is.
So So you have to understand, for them to charge that, they spend more money on packaging than they do on the actual product. So, when you see that, now the person that's creating has to decide, for us to keep producing it, we have to keep selling it. If it's not, then whatever they have, they sell it, they liquidate it to a third party, like a TJ Maxx, a Marshalls,
And then they take it.
Yeah, they buy a nickel for the dollar. That's just the makeup. When you see a brand in a department store, there's two ways to get rid of it. They what they call penny it out, where they just mark it down 50, 40, and then everything is like, then what they do is they penny it out and they throw it away. Okay. Or they just take the loss and they'll sell it to the brand, to a TJ Maxx, like a reseller like that. And then they sell it. Maybe if the foundation costs $30 in the store, they'll buy it for $1 and sell it for 12 in a Macy's. I mean, in a TJ Maxx. So there's a lot out there that you can find, but I would check those stores. Yeah, you would be surprised what you can find there. Yeah, and they have all the brands. All the brands. I don't walk into department stores anymore. I can't. I can't do it. I haven't been in the Macy's since I left Macy's.
Oh, really?
I have not been in a Macy's since I left Macy's.
I think a lot of people haven't really. I think a lot of people, a lot of malls have shut down, to be honest, and a lot of stores have been going more online than ever before because they can't get the walk-in traffic like they used to.
No, they can. Everything is the internet. But a good perfume should last you a long time.
Oh, trust me. I have perfumes here that I've gotten from Saks that are, been lasting me for like a long time. Because
my bathroom now, I have my perfume.
Let me just say this. And I'm just going to put this out there for everybody that's out here listening to this. If your perfume walks in before you, you got
You got what?
If your perfume or your cologne walks in before you enter into the room, you've put on too much.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't do this. That's not the proper way. What you do is you do what I do, and I get the right amount. I'll do this, and then I walk right through it. And it just leaves a scent that's not overpowering, but just enough to get you through the day.
Yeah.
Especially if you got a really good one that you did pay top dollar for. It will last. It will linger. It will feel like it's a part of your body.
Yeah. And perfume should never be put on clothes. Perfume should always be put on skin.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Just walk right through it. After you get out the shower and you're feeling fresh, you got your lotion on, and just do this and just walk through.
My perfume that I created for Macy's is 20 years old. I still have that's the only thing I have.
What was that perfume called?
You want me to grab it? I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a great interview. I hope you guys are enjoying this because I've been wanting to do this for a while and get her story out there and everything. And this was just the right time for me to do this because, like I said, everybody needed to know who she was. If they were going to talk makeup, I at least wanted her history to be told.
So this is my foundation stick that I still have.
Here, put it up closer. Yes.
So, yeah. Yellow.
Talk while you're doing it, because this video that goes in and out. Let me see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me see the fountain. Tell me about the fountain. Oh, yeah, and you still have your tag on too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, my logo, Bonita, was a flower. My favorite flower is a daisy. So that's why it was like that. That's always been. And then this is my perfume.
Oh, nice. What are the notes in that?
Oh, my notes are, the main note is black licorice. Black licorice, gardenia, lavender, and we had essential oils put in, which was orange, bergamot, and patchouli. And it still smells like when I first launched this, right? The manufacturer made it for me in Long Island. I had a body cream souffle. It was so amazing. So he says to me, do you want us to fill the bottle or do you want to fill the bottle? I'm like, well, I'll save the money. Just send me the drums and I'll fill my bottles. Why did I do that? Because they sent me all these drums with the pump and you could smell the perfume 10 blocks away. The headache. I said, so when we did the second round, because we sold out, we had a big launch at Macy's. We sold out. Now, how I packaged this, I had a company from Asia make me these cute handbags, leather handbags. They were not leather. They looked leather, but they weren't leather. Beautiful handbags. This came in a pouch inside of the handbag. So when you got this, the free gift of purchase was the actual handbag. People were walking around with the handbag. I loved it.
Wow.
Yep, that's how they got it. I hated boxes. And then this is great because this used to covers all of, under the skin, everything. It's very light and it's a shea butter stick. Shea butter.
I love that
Color. Yeah.
I love that.
The company that made for me out of this was they were out of New York City. Yeah. So, yeah.
Rosemary, thank you so much for joining me today. We do have to end this interview. I could definitely get on a phone call with you after, but we got some video I got to save here and everything else. So I really appreciate you giving me your time and energy and story today because it was just wonderful to hear from you and for you to open up and share your story with everybody else that I'm going to push out into my network. And I really appreciate this. So.
Oh, thank you. If anybody could tell the story, you could tell it.
Huh?
If anybody could tell my story,
honestly, obviously, it was meant for me to tell it anyway because I'm just shocked that you haven't told it before. After
people have asked, believe me, people have been wanting to do it for years, but I got to the point. I don't want it. No, you don't. I guess it was a trust factor. And I said, well, why bother? It's gone. But, I do want people to know the story and who, what I did. And when you asked me, I was like, well, if anybody could do it, it could be Laura.
And yes, she calls me Laura, even though you all know me as Lolo.
Laura Mary.
Sister Laura, married to you, honey.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me, and tune in next week as we get into more of what Lolo knows. Have a good day.